People have been saying they don't know how to dispose of the waste from ReactorCraft, so I'm going to make a quick video showing what you're supposed to do with it and what the purpose of two machines from ReactorCraft are. So you'll notice if you try to run an efficient reactor, and this includes breeder reactors, you'll end up with, as well as spent fuel, nuclear waste, which looks like this. And there's a whole bunch of different types. We don't need to worry about the different types right now. Not yet, anyway. But basically, nuclear waste is a rather dangerous material. If you leave it in the nuclear reactor, it will eventually poison the reaction and reduce the efficiency of the reactor. And if you try to carry it around, you'll end up with nuclear radiation poisoning, which will ultimately kill you. So what you're supposed to do is dispose of it the same way they dispose of it in the real world, which is first you put it in the spent fuel pool, let the most destructive stuff decay, and then eventually you just bury the long-lived stuff underground. And I'll show you how to do that with ReactorCraft. So the first thing you want to do is build your spent fuel pool. Let's set the time today. Let's just cut a hole. This should work just fine. Okay, now we got a hole. This will do just fine as a spent fuel pool. Fill it with water, as you might imagine. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to line it with concrete. This is not strictly necessary, but it's probably a good thing to do. There we go. 1, 2. Okay, and I'll put floor out of concrete as well. Okay, now we'll fill it with water, and you do that any way you see fit. I'll just do it with a magic or world edit wand. Obviously, you can't do that part in survival, but you know, do as you see fit. Okay, so there we go. Tub of water. Anyways, what you do is you take your spent fuel container. It has to be submerged underwater. If you don't do this, you'll either get radiation leaking out, and you'll see the neutrons firing out in a minute, or the thing will overheat and explode and spill radiation everywhere. Anyways, so you've got your spent fuel container. It's 40 degrees because it's the desert, so it's ambient temperature 40 degrees. And you just load up, well, nuclear waste into it. So we'll pick cesium-134. Side note, you see it's got a half-life of 2 years, roughly. Yeah, nuclear waste is not stacking here, so we're just going to change that a little bit. We're going to put in 1 item of cesium-134. And then we'll put in xenon-135, 6 hours half-life, which is a lot shorter. We'll put in zirconium-93, which is 1,000,000 years. Cesium-137, 30 years. Strontium-90, 28 years. There's a whole bunch of different types. These ones that are red are extra dangerous. Strontium-90 is kind of notorious in the real world for that. Anyways, if you look carefully, water's kind of good at stopping neutrons. You might not actually see them make it out, which is one reason you're supposed to put it underwater. But the other thing you'll notice, if you don't cool this properly, for example, if I put concrete adjacent to it on most sides, in fact, we'll even go one step further than that. There we go, so it's got no water on any side. Once I do that, it'll start to heat up. 88 degrees, 104 degrees, and eventually it'll explode. So instead we'll just let it cool down. And it actually is eating the water blocks. Like you notice I'm getting sucked closer every now and then. That's because the water block here gets completely consumed. It gets replenished, of course, but anyways. So the point is, you leave the nuclear waste in here. The short-lived ones, so for example, the cesium-134 and the xenon-135 will disappear. They'll decay, and you'll be left with empty space to load in new nuclear waste. The long-lived stuff won't. You'll have to take it to the second stage, which is what the nuclear waste disposal drum is for. I'd like to show you some waste decay, but it seems we're not going to get quite that lucky. Maybe if I just pick a whole stack of this stuff. We'll eat that for now. Anyways, nuclear waste disposal drum, well, it's got a little bit less storage. It can stack some waste. Now, it can't take the short-lived waste, which is why you have to decay it in the spent fuel container. But the long-lived stuff, for example, the tin-126, put it in, stacks up to 16 in here. And while it's in here, if I was in survival, I would be getting radiation poisoning. So this is something you do want to bury underground, deep underground, like they do in real life, some containment area. But this is basically how you dispose of nuclear waste. It will very slowly eventually decay, but that takes rather longer than is really feasible to actually rely on. And you don't want to leave nuclear waste on the ground. It will never despawn it. It will just irradiate the area around it. Still nothing in here decayed. So I'll show you, for example, what I mean. If we'll put this down, load it up with tin, go to survival, and I've got radiation poisoning, as you can see. It's supposed to be for 30 minutes. It doesn't show that for some reason. Oh well. Anyways, yeah, it's something you don't want to mess with. Still in here, we've got nothing decaying, but that's okay. Down some more. Some more of that. Some more of that. Oh well. I'll show you what happens if you don't cool it. Put one over here. So I'll put some goggles on first so you can see the radiation goggles. Just wear those. Okay, so load that up with nuclear waste. It'll get hotter and hotter and hotter until, and there we go. Minor radiation, well, more than minor, but noticeable radiation spill, and now you've got a crater too. And that radiation, nuclear waste, will eventually dump more radiation if you just leave it there. So that's why you don't just leave nuclear waste lying around.